Where you're from, maybe?
I'm from Switzerland.
No, you can't tell that one?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you can tell that one?
Sure.
Right.
Okay. In French, he says, Anneliese, is it you? Startling, I said, yes, Sir Winston.
He's stark naked.
Not a stitch out.
You like to drive fast.
Yes, I have a heavy foot. So finally I took out my pistol and I said, I am not going to kill you, I'm just shooting you in your leg. You have drugs smuggled in this car. And Sir Winston said to Prince Philip, I said, Sir, we are going to reach Mach 2. Don't you know what that means?
What's up, people? The SL500 Mercedes with the SBC braking system malfunction is back home and all finished, thanks to some very nice people at Crown Mercedes who actually warrantied the car like they should. But this is Anneliese.
Good evening, everybody. We are celebrating. Thank God to Casey, who got his teeth in it and didn't let go. So let's drink to this.
Cheers.
Cheers. Let's celebrate. All you people out there who routed for us.
Indeed. Anneliese has been a lovely family friend and a very good mentor to me for many years. So Taylor and I are enjoying visiting this evening, and we wanted to share a video with you because Anneliese is a huge car freak.
I am, from the time I was able to walk.
You've told me some really good stories about that.
Yes, yes, indeed.
All on different continents, being a car freak and car lover.
Yes.
You've been to some car shows, ones that I've put on. You've
Yes.
been at other ones and seen beautiful cars.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have particular ones that are your favorites, a time period or a mark?
Well, once we went to Dartmoor. Glenmore, excuse me, and I absolutely lost it. So that's when Casey knew how much of a car freak I am. So
we met many years ago.
Yeah.
I had a 1957 Devon, and some of you that may remember from VinWiki was the story of, oh gosh, track Nazis, trash pandas, and sports cars, something like that. It was a silly name. But that was the car, and I was showing at a very nice car show. And Anneliese came along as well.
Yes.
We had a mutual interest in, back when I met you, in fountain pens and pocket watches and things like that.
Correct, Waterman.
So here's an interesting thing. As you all may know, I have been making fun of Porsche snobs.
Ooh.
You know a thing or two about snobs.
I sure do.
More than I.
But all my families are car freaks in a way, and I just didn't know it. And as the only girl of several boys, they didn't think it was anything different. So yes, and all the very special cars, Mercedes among them, Jaguars, and my family friend rescued a man who landed on our estate.
Oh, that's a good story. Let's come back to that one.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you this though, because that's a really good story.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a good snob and a bad car snob?
A good snob knows class and style and how to drive a car and how to be dressed with a car that represents that status of a certain class of cars. A bad snob is sort of rough and uncouth and doesn't even know what a fabulous car he is driving.
Maybe they just buy it because they think it's cool. They don't know anything about it, and they can't drive. So may we talk a little bit about your background?
Like
where you're from, maybe?
I'm from Switzerland.
Yes.
My family are big landowners. And my father is the youngest of 14 children. So do I have to say any more?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
So everybody drives a different car.
Yes.
And has its own adherence to it and dresses accordingly. and drives it accordingly. My grandpa never drove. He was driven or he was on a horse.
Wonderful car story number one.
Yeah.
When you were a child, I believe, a man landed an airplane
On my grandpa's estate, and the overseer came on lot number so and so is an aeroplane on our estate. And so my grandpa...
That's not normal.
No, not at all.
You did not have a runway.
No, it was just a plowed field.
Yes.
And my grandpa took his horse, he put me on top of it, my brothers and my
Do you remember how
cousins.
old you were?
Well, maybe 12, 14.
Okay.
And the man was on his knees. And for some reason, one of my cousins grabbed the Swiss flag. He did not know where he landed. And when he saw the Swiss flag, he just sobbed. And my grandpa said, "Young man, get up. You are fine. You are on my land. Let's come home with us." So he took him on his horse. I trotted with my cousin and brothers home. And he stayed with us for about 2 weeks.
I see.
And so he left. And he said, "I can never thank you enough."
He was escaping something, or?
Yeah, he was escaping whatever. And so about a year later, a beautiful sort of dark brown, cherry brown, red car drove up to our driveway, a car we have never seen or a license plate. And out comes that pilot.
Ah.
And he was from Czechoslovakia. And he said they were the only people who made cars in Yugoslavia. And he said, "This is the second car we made in our factory."
Was it Yugoslavia or Czechoslovakia?
Czechoslovakia, yeah. And we are this is the second car of our lot. And he drove to Switzerland to visit us and say thank you, and brought incredible gifts with him. He said, "I can never thank you enough." And he stayed another 2 weeks, so we gave him a tour of Switzerland.
Yes.
And he says, "You saved my life simply because you were so gracious and generous to take me in when I did not know where I was."
Yes.
So that was one of the most wonderful stories I will never forget.
Indeed.
That was
Was it his car company afterward?
of his
That he
family.
started?
Yes, that he started.
He may never have been able to do that if he wasn't so fortunate to land.
Correct. And I think, if I'm not remember correctly, a Skoda or a Skuda.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have to call.
We should look. There may be people out there that know
that
exactly.
would know what the name of the company is, who makes that car.
Indeed.
It was unbelievable. So fast forward, here we are on that car show in Canton again.
Oh, the Glenmore.
Yeah, and the color of that Chrysler was almost the same as the color of that man's beautiful, beautiful car. So, wow, what people in this world can do for each other when we are kind and have the right attitude towards gorgeous cars.
Indeed. Well, I can think of another great car-related story later in your many wonderful stories.
Okay, which one?
When somebody wasn't on the list that showed up at a sports car at an estate in England.
Oh, yes.
We're going to need a little bit of backstory for this, though.
Okay, I was lucky enough to work for the Sir Winston Churchill. I was his chief of staff, and I had all the license plate of all the royal families and all the dukes and counts that would come impromptu to visit him
Anytime.
in London or on his country estate.
May I ask, was this his country estate?
Yeah.
What was the name of it?
Chartwell.
I see.
And we were at that time, this happened in Chartwell, and I had a roster of all the license plates, and Scotland Yard was in and outside of his estate, and they called me, "A car is in front of the gate, can we open?" And I said, no. I looked it up and I didn't find it. And I took the binocular and looked. Here was Prince Philip in a dark green sports car.
Oh, you could see him through the binoculars.
Oh, yeah.
I see.
I said, open that gate. So he buzzed in. I was upstairs in my office. I ran downstairs.
Oh, he just came right to the front.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Right on it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
Well.
I went around downstairs and was enough time to open that door and make my curtsy. And he walked by me up the stairs. He says, I would like to see Sir Winston, Your Royal Highness, just a minute. And I wanted to announce him, and he dashed by me.
Because you had to do that with everyone.
Oh, of course. Because there is a door, and then there is an antechamber, and then you get into his bedroom. And so, as I am opening up the first door, Prince Philip squeezed by me to the second door, and he opened the second door and was right in the bedroom of Sir Winston. He was in bed. He never went to bed. He never went to bed before 3. He never got out of bed before 11.
Was this in the morning?
Yes.
As he was still in bed.
Still in bed. And he said, oh boy, I'm here. I bought a new car. I want to take you for a ride.
Just car guys.
Yes. Car guys. And Sir Winston gave me that little nick and said, Annelies, you know what we need. And I said, yes, Sir Winston. And I left, and I got a bottle of champagne with 2 gorgeous, gorgeous crystals with it. And I called one of the maid to clean up at the fireplace and get a fire started. And I didn't see in front of the fire was that little carpet, and I dripped. Guess what? The whole bottle with the 2 gorgeous crystals fell in front of Prince Philip onto the floor, and I wanted to disappear into the floor. And Sir Winston said to Prince Philip, I think we had much worse thrown in front of our feet than a bottle of champagne with 2 gorgeous crystal glasses. I was saved. So
Then what?
Then I just took a bow, a royal curtsy, and left. Hallelujah. My neck was saved. It took very little.
Did you get more champagne after that?
Yes, of
Okay.
course. And Lady Churchill was very upset with me because she was very frugal and did not want me to serve a second bottle with 2 new glasses that were broken.
And did the men go for a ride after
Oh,
that?
yes.
Yes?
I call his valet, get the bath ready. He put the toothpaste on the brush.
Really?
Of course, he dressed him, and they went off to a spin in that gorgeous dark
I wonder what it was.
green Maserati.
Was it? You don't think it was an Aston or a Jaguar?
Oh no, Maserati.
Really? Okay.
Yes, the same car that he drove, David Niven, the movie star, and what's his other name, that I met on the plane going back from Europe to the United States.
It sounds like...
The British actor.
When was he most famous?
He played so many roles. He was a little bit heavy. Forget what his name right now is.
It sounds like a Concorde story.
Yes, I was on the Concorde twice.
I forgot that's another story, isn't it? What was that like?
Unbelievable. I was on the first row of the seats, and there were no doors to the cockpit. There were heavy curtains, a woman pilot and a man pilot, and they told us when we take off down the runway, when they leave the ground so fast you will get a tug. And when we went down that runway, and suddenly they took off, that heavy curtain went out 90 degrees. I would buy another ticket just for that takeoff. It was so awesome. And of course it's all only first class. Before you could sit down, Mr. Casey put a glass of champagne, white linen, sterling silver, crystal, oh yeah, whole 9 yards.
Was it a beautiful view outside?
Yes, when we heard Mach 1, we heard that thump.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yes.
You felt it?
Oh, yeah.
The shock
because
wave.
the pilot said we are reaching Mach 1. And then when we reached Mach 2, we were too high. We were 80,000 feet high. We saw the curvature of the Earth. It was unbelievable. And the temperature dropped to 80 degrees below zero. He said the air is now so thin, and the altitude we are flying, now we are using very little fuel because the whole plane was full of fuel, and they had pumps regulating that flow. And people were sitting there, they had no idea what they were talking about. A man in front of me was just fumbling around. I said, "Sir, we are going to reach Mach 2. Don't you know what that means?" See what I mean? A good snob and a bad snob. That's the difference.
Would you say a bad snob is someone that buys a car just because they think it's special, they don't know how to drive it, and they just let it sit in the garage and pamper?
Yes, that's the shame of it. That's the shame.
You like to drive fast.
Yes, I have a heavy foot. And you are the one who is warning me, don't ever try to catch her, you will lose.
You used to race downhill skis, did you not?
Yes.
Do you think that's where you got your speed?
I think I did because my father belonged to a very fast crowd of a young man with very fast cars. And because we owned so much land, we could shut off any road.
I see.
So on a Sunday, they just shut off roads to have their car race.
Yes.
And so my father would have a Lamborghini and his brother.
Would he?
Oh yes, or a Maserati, and the finest sports cars that you can think of. And they just went all around. And I drove his old Plymouth and said, "Papa, can I participate?" "No, you cannot. You can go out of the way." That's what my father said.
Your father was a very nice man, though.
Yes, he was a very, very, very nice man.
I feel like you're going to get invitations to car rallies now and Lamborghinis and
Oh, I would like to go to Indianapolis. That's the one place I have not been.
things. You haven't been to the Speedway?
No, I have been to Monza. I have been to the Nürburgring.
Oh, yes.
I have been in Monte Carlo race.
Would you go for the Grand Prix?
Oh, yes.
Where was the most fun? Was it fun in Monte Carlo, or was it too congested?
Monte Carlo, maybe, I think because of the scenery.
Yes.
Nürburgring was maybe...
I think you were there at a very good and chic time.
Yes, and very, very fast. And of course in Europe, if you go on the Autobahn in Germany or in the Strade del Sole in Italy, you just push it down. However fast that car of yours is going, you just go. There are no speed limits on the Autobahns.
How about the Nürburgring? How did you like that?
I liked it because it felt, because of the way it's laid out, you could see the speed more. Monte Carlo was so long and drawn out. You couldn't be in too many places to get that feel of that incredible speed.
Yeah, that's true. You'd have to have just the right balcony, and it was more. Yeah,
exactly. The scenery was really the backbone of Monte Carlo.
What about Monza?
Oh, now Monza, crazy Monza. In fact, I don't know, do they still have it?
They do, but the track. Were you there for the high banks? The very, when they were up on the big bank.
Yes.
They don't do that anymore.
That's what I
That
thought.
would have been something.
Yeah. They had too many accidents.
Yes.
So unfortunately, too many lives were lost.
That's a fascinating subject, because motor racing for cars, everybody's gotten very safety conscious. But motorcycle racing, they'll still run the ragged edge like they did 50 years ago.
Yes, the motorcycles.
Like the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Did you ever go there?
No, I never look at this. No,
that would be nice.
No.
Yeah.
I wasn't English enough at the time.
I see. Okay, fair enough. It is kind of far out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So come, Casey, give me one of your wonderful stories.
My wonderful stories
Yes,
are
please.
not as good as yours.
Oh, come. Don't
What
be
story?
so
Well, you have to give me. I was thinking of all stories from you.
No, but you were racing and I watched you where the
Mid-Ohio?
Yes.
I have to admit, when you were there, the engine was misfiring.
Yes.
The rotor was hitting the distributor.
Yes.
And it was causing the ignition to retard on 3 cylinders.
Yes.
Which made the engine very unhappy.
But you still went.
Yeah, I still won, but I was disappointed because I wanted to win by a lot more than that.
I know.
I had something I wanted to prove that day.
What is that?
I just wanted everybody to know who really was the fastest that day.
And for what you had to deal with, the difficulties, me, that was a double victory.
Yes, you know of the underhanded political garbage that Genius Garage went through from the
Yes.
Boys Club. Ooh, the Boys Club. I feel like you know all about that. Being a very strong woman in many, many places doing many interesting things.
Yes, but I think I would like you to tell them a little more about that than I can.
I think these guys know about that. So I'll tell you more about that story another time.
Okay.
I have another fun visual stories that you used to tell me, and I can't remember when and why. But you would drive around Europe, and I think you had a BMW at the time. And maybe you were going to Greece, perhaps?
Yes.
And at the time when you decided you get tired, it was at night, because it wasn't as easy to find a hotel. You didn't have cell phones and all that.
No.
You would find a street light and park the car, and then you would sleep in the car.
Yeah. Do you know how that came about?
Why is that?
The first time I was then with Interpol.
Yes.
And I was on my way to Turkey.
Okay.
Ankara, really. And of course I had allowance to go to hotels and to have food. And I went, I think it was in Trieste before I entered Yugoslavia. And I got a first floor room. And there was just a sink where I could take a sponge bath. And it was late at night.
Yugoslavia?
In Trieste, Italy, just before you enter Yugoslavia. And I took a sponge bath, and before I knew there was a man on the window watching me.
Oh!
That did it.
Oh!
That did it. I put on my clothes. I went to concierge, I gave him my money, and left.
Were you carrying a revolver at that time?
I was not supposed to, but I had one. So, the way back, that's another story. So I left, it was probably 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
And I started to drive. I said, this takes the cake. Now what am I going to do? I know I have to be in Ankara at some point.
Okay, I'm sorry, back up. What? There was a random Italian man in your window just being a peeping Tom?
Yeah.
Had you experienced that before or after? Just...
That's the only time. And I said, there is a remedy.
It's funny now.
It is very funny now. I said, there is a remedy. Never go to a hotel again.
Okay.
So, what do I do? Where do I go? So I kept on driving. I was into Yugoslavia, Ljubljana, a small little town. I said, all right. I go to the center of the town, to the middle of the town. I go under a street light. Park, put my clock on the dashboard.
Alarm clock, yeah?
Yeah, alarm clock and sleep. Suddenly, somebody knocked on my window. I don't speak Yugoslavian, policeman. And I pointed to my alarm clock and like this, going to... Fine. He never woke me up. The alarm clock rang. I started to drive when I saw a light. I was a little side road restaurant, no warm water, just cold. So I took a cold water sponge bath or whatever, a Turkish coffee that wakes up dead people, and I kept on driving. And 100, 200 miles later, I stopped in a cafe with my thermos bottle. They filled it with those
Oh.
Turkish coffee.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yes, and I couldn't afford to have air condition, but I could afford a sunroof, so I had that open, turned down the radio top volume, and Turkish coffee. That just kept me awake, driving all
Wait, where were you going? In Turkey?
Ankara, Turkey.
Ah.
Yes.
What were you doing there?
Well, that is...
That's a story of
police.
Interpol, yeah.
That is, yes. No, that's nothing. I had my first BMW, and the mission was accomplished, and I started to drive back, and I came from Belgrade, going back to Ljubljana, Trieste, Milan, Switzerland, and just before Ljubljana, I was stopped by the Yugoslavian police. They pulled me over, and they said, "Give me your car key." I gave him a car key, and I said, "Why? You have drugs smuggled in this car." I said, "What are you talking about?" And they started to dismantle the car.
What? In Yugoslavia?
Yes. So I called the big chief of Interpol. They are taking my car apart. Oh, excuse me. Before I did this, I said, "Stop doing what you are doing." And I showed them my credentials. They just laughed.
What? Really?
So finally I took out my pistol and I said, "I am not going to kill you. I'm just shooting you in your leg and you will scream bloody murder." So finally, Casey, they let me call. By then, my car, my beautiful white BMW, was in 100 pieces.
You haven't told me this story yet.
Don't laugh.
It's funny. It's funny now. You know it's funny.
The big chief got on the phone and called them or told them the riot act, and they were white like a sheet. But that's not all. They couldn't put that car together again. They had to call a special mechanic from Milan, Italy, to put my car together again. I wanted to kill them all. Yes, yes. So then when I came back to the headquarters, the big chief said, "You were not supposed to have a weapon on you."
Oh, your revolver, yeah?
I said, "Sir, it's not your weapon, it's mine." Well, I have to tell you folks, my mother is a sharpshooter, my father is, my twin brother is, I am. So I was on 24-hour call for special missions. That's all I can tell you.
We still haven't gone shooting yet. We were going to in Columbus that one time.
Yes?
Are there any rifle ranges around here?
You mean where you can shoot?
Yeah. We have to do that.
Yeah, and I hear them sometimes early in the morning when they do training.
Oh, really?
Shootings,
Oh, I
yes,
see.
yes, yes. Well, folks, that's one of the car stories I hope you never have to experience. With your beautiful BMW, or if you drive one, drive it well.
What do you say to young people out there that don't have their first car yet but are aspiring to have something? How do they... I think on the internet there's so many fancy and expensive cars, Lamborghinis and things, that seem impossible for so many people. What would you say to them about enjoying any car? Like, for instance, you know that I have the Porsche that I bought for $3,000 and fixed up myself.
Yes, I know, which I so highly admire you. You do miracles with your cars. I do not know where you have your talent from, but you are incredibly good in doing things that no one else dares to do. And I think this, for young people, try to do this. Try to be yourself. Try to dare. And if you have never had a car, go by your feeling. Don't go by the name of the car. Pick a car that talks to you. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Pick a car that talks to you.
That could be anything. It could be a Volkswagen.
Absolutely, yeah.
A Toyota.
Absolutely, yeah. Just pick a car.
Subaru,
and,
yeah.
And if may I say,
Please.
if they need some help for choosing or looking for certain things, they could call you maybe or text you
yes,
or
they can
check in with you and say, Casey, what do I look for if I am not versed in it or
Yes.
have nobody to help me with?
Yes, of
that would
course.
be wonderful because we all need help
Yes.
with choosing something. Because if we have no experience, we hope we can enlist someone's help who knows more than you or I would. I don't know anything. I just know when a car talks to me. That's all.
Here's something we should point out to young people out there: the value of money in this sense with cars.
Yes.
Now you just told mostly some very exciting and chic and fancy stories from long ago.
Yes.
But I went to some serious lengths to make sure to save you some money with regard to the Mercedes.
Yes, you certainly.
And make sure that the dealerships wouldn't rake you over the coals.
Correct.
What would you say to people out there about the value of the dollar and not judging somebody by what you think? I'll give you an example. Everybody thinks I'm rich.
Okay. And?
It gets annoying after a while.
Right. It's really not the money. It's who you know who is dedicated in what they are doing and honest about it and have another person's interest in mind, not the end result of a dollar sign.
Yes. That's a very good point.
Yeah, really truly.
What would you say to people out there and younger people about relationships being more important than just a quick gain monetarily?
Yeah, because
Playing the long.
Go for someone you admire. Go for someone you want a friendship and be honest about it. And admire them for what they can do that you have never heard about it, that you would like be a part of. Tell them, can you teach me? Can you tell me how to do certain things? How to choose something? And listen good. And be grateful for it. And there is no dollar sign attached to someone who wants honestly to help you and teach you. Just be open and zero in what you hear and make it your own. If you have something that you are interested, tell them. But you tell them that you don't know anything about it, because people will never teach you anything if you don't let them know what you think. If you think you know it all, nobody will teach you anything. So go to someone who you can trust and tell them, I don't know anything about it. Can you show me? Can you teach me? And Casey would be a wonderful, wonderful teacher. He has all the understanding and the experience. And he has gone through just what he went through with my beautiful Mercedes. I still don't believe it. I'm still quite numb about his help and the teeth he had to get into the right person after how many cars?
It was bad. It was bad.
So you see, be good about someone and appreciate them and show them their respect and their appreciation. And it goes a long, long way. That's all the way we all learn. If nobody is willing to teach us honestly, nobody would know anything. So please, try that. And you will be very proud of what you have achieved with a mentor that Casey can help you or give you some tips for it. Okay? Yes.
Two things. One, I think an interesting piece of wisdom you'll have, and then one last fun story at the end to end it with.
Okay.
Piece of wisdom. You've done many interesting things, and I think you are a very brave and energetic person that's smart. What made you brave to go accomplish and do things, so many incredible things
in my life
that they don't even know? Yes.
Okay, one thing in my life or in my vocabulary does not exist. If someone tells me it cannot be done, I do not accept it. There is no such thing in this beautiful country of ours. It cannot be done. I tell you a very small little story. I rented a room for my business, and it had the ceiling had 3 different heights. And I went to the owner and I said, please sir, could you make the ceiling all one height? It's very disharmonious. And this wealthy man with many properties said, I'm sorry, it cannot be done. I said, sir, please, I have an accent, so you all know I'm not from here. I told him, sir, do not tell me in this beautiful country of ours, of the United States, it cannot be done. Anywhere else in the world, maybe I will buy it, but not here. Guess what? My beautiful big business that I have, it's all one beautiful size ceiling. So never accept the answer, it cannot be done. It does not exist. Stand for it and demand it. That is my wisdom.
Let's see if this is a good, funny story to end with.
Okay.
I seem to remember a story that you were up early in the morning, just at dawn or a little bit after, and there was a shadowy figure coming toward you in the hallway. But Winston was never awake in the morning.
No.
No, you can't tell that one?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you can tell that one?
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Being the chief of staff, the first in the morning, the last at 9. 7 o'clock in the morning, that's when I get up. I come from the employees' staircase into the main room where Sir Winston and Lady Churchill live. And I go through 2 doors that swing open. Half of it is whitish glass. And as I'm swinging that door open, and the long walkway, corridor, ends in a huge window from the floor to the ceiling, and I see a shadowy figure walking down that corridor. I said, who on earth at 7 o'clock in the morning is walking here? And I'm hearing from this figure in French, because Sir Winston only spoke French to me. In French he says, Anneliese, is it you? Startling, I said, yes, Sir Winston. And I kept on walking.
You couldn't see him,
No, because the light of that big window made it black.
Yes, silhouette.
His silhouette. And as I am walking closer, here he is walking away from me, split naked.
He's stark naked.
Not a stitch
He
out.
walked right by you?
No, I'm now 2 or 3 feet before I reach him, and he's turning around, split naked.
You're walking right by.
Yeah, and I was so startled. He turned around, kept on walking in the other direction, and he said, Anneliese, you are just looking at the most beautiful ass you have ever seen. And he kept on walking. He disappeared into his room, and I almost died. And I looked for his night valet, his night nurse, and his night valet was from Wales, and his night nurse was nowhere to be found. And finally I said, oh my God, what is going on? He wanted the night nurse to bring him a cold drink.
I see, okay.
And he looked for it and started walking in the corridor looking.
That wasn't really normal. Somebody would
Oh,
bring
not at all, because he never got out of bed before 11 o'clock in the morning. He had his breakfast in bed. He had meat, potatoes washed down with a glass of white wine, and he says, I don't trust anyone who doesn't eat meat. Carnivores will win the war.
I'm imagining it must have been reasonably warm in Chartwell if he's walking around like
Oh
that.
yeah, oh, of course. And he only wore, if he wore anything at night, silk pajamas.
I see, okay. All right, everybody.
Great. I hope we had given you a good time. I was so happy to be with you and so happy to have Casey with me that brought that beautiful car back to me with brakes so that car doesn't become a coffin for someone to drive.
Yes,
So
that would
thank
have been
God to Casey and that Mercedes-Benz people who were gracious enough
Yes.
to adhere to the promises
Yes.
that Mercedes-Benz made.
It was Crown Mercedes in Dublin that actually treated us right.
Oh, I
did it.
will.
Do you know the previous one?
No.
After finding out about that, try to do some BS and saying, "Oh, well, we talked to them and helped make it happen." And then they tried to play this thing on me of how Mercedes has a secret list of how it was and they communicated. And I'm like, and I said, I'm thinking it's funny. Their stupid secret list. Yeah, right. Do they not know who they're dealing with? I've got access to Mercedes' stupid secret list. They didn't do anything. It's just amazing how they were trying to cover up the bad dealership.
Now that is really very, very sad. So that's not the people you want to talk
No, the
or
previous one.
promote.
Let them remain nameless. But,
Absolutely, that's
Yeah.
what they deserve.
but it was Crown Mercedes that treated us well.
Congratulations and my hat off to those people who adhered to the promise that they made to the Mercedes-Benz company. Really, truly. Thank you very much for everybody. And of course, most of all of Casey, who never gave up on it. I feel so very fortunate. So
Well.
very fortunate. Thank you again, Casey,
You're welcome.
my wonderful friend.
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and that you might share.
Oh yes, please do share it with someone. Make someone happy just to hear some of the wisdoms and goofiness of life.
Yeah, indeed. And perhaps if you like this, we'll come back for some more stories as we
Yes,
have more.
absolutely, absolutely.
And naturally, comment and subscribe.
Yes.
See you next time.
See you next time. Good night, everybody. Good night.